In the firmament of modern cinema, few stars possess as clearly defined a persona as Jason Statham. He is the quintessential man of action. A figure carved from granite and propelled by a quiet, combustible intensity. His characters are men of principle, often operating on the fringes of the law, who speak with their fists and a dry, clipped wit. Yet, to understand the man who has become the standard bearer for a certain brand of muscular, intelligent thriller, one must first look to the idols who shaped his own conception of the cinematic hero. At the apex of Jason Statham's cinematic inspirations stands a man who, on the surface, might seem an unlikely hero for an action star of the 21st century: Paul Newman. Newman was the epitome of a different era of Hollywood stardom. His rebellion was cooler, his intensity simmered rather than boiled, and his blue-eyed charm was the stuff of legend. Yet, for Statham, Newman is the absolute measure of a leading man. The introduction came, as it so often does, through his parents. Recalling the moment he first witnessed Newman's magnetic power, Statham explained, "I saw it years ago, when my mum and dad made me watch it." The film was the 1967 classic, Cool Hand Luke. The impact was immediate and profound. I was like, "This guy is just the coolest dude ever," Statham confessed. It was not merely the acting, but the entire package, the charisma, the quiet defiance, the sheer force of personality that Newman projected from the screen. He just had such charisma. It just really spoke to me, and it's one of those films I can watch time and time again. It was pretty much the first time I saw Paul Newman, and I've been hooked on most of his movies ever since. Statham's admiration extends to Newman's celebrated collaborations with Robert Redford.
What's the matter with you? I can't swim!
He has repeatedly cited two of their films, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid from 1969 and The Sting from 1973, as personal favourites. Of the former, a revisionist western that redefined the buddy film, Statham is unequivocal in his praise. The chemistry between the two leads is, for him, a key part of its timeless appeal. "I can watch that movie 100 times and never get tired," he has said. "I think the pairing of Redford and Newman is amazing." In The Sting, Newman and Redford play a pair of conmen who set out to pull off an elaborate scheme against a ruthless crime boss. Newman's portrayal of the seasoned grifter Henry Gondorff is a masterclass in understated confidence and cunning. The intricate plots and clever deceptions of The Sting are echoed in films like The Bank Job, a smart, stylish heist thriller that demonstrated Statham's ability to lead a complex, character-driven narrative. While Paul Newman represents a classical form of Hollywood cool, it was the action stars of the 1980s who created the explosive, high-octane genre in which Jason Statham would ultimately make his name. It is no surprise, then, that he holds a particular reverence for the men who defined that era, chief among them Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Statham has spoken frequently of his admiration for their work, recognizing them as the architects of modern action cinema. "I was inspired by people like Stallone and Arnold," he has stated, placing himself in a direct lineage of cinematic physicality. His relationship with Sylvester Stallone is particularly significant, having evolved from one of admiration to one of collaboration and mutual respect.
Mommy, I don't want to be changed!
When Stallone assembled a team of action legends for The Expendables in 2010, Statham was not just a supporting player. He was positioned as Stallone's right-hand man, Lee Christmas. This was a clear endorsement from one of the genre's elder statesmen. For Statham, the opportunity to work alongside a childhood hero was a career-defining moment. He has spoken of Stallone's influence in glowing terms, recognizing the weight of his approval. The sense of a symbolic handover was not lost on him, especially when Stallone entrusted him with a project he had originally developed for himself. The thriller Homefront, released in 2013, was written by Stallone, who had intended to star in it years earlier. Instead, he passed the script to Statham. "I'm conscious of his endorsement," Statham said in an interview. "It couldn't come from a higher place. It's something I really want to fulfill." Like Stallone, Statham has built a unique brand around himself. His films often follow a satisfying, audience-pleasing structure, but he brings a level of commitment and authenticity that elevates the material. He understands the importance of crafting an impressive physique, of delivering a well-timed one-liner, and of grounding the most outlandish action sequences in a believable sense of grit and determination.
This arm has been ripped off completely and reattached with this fucking arm.
I don't know that that's possible. I mean, medically.
He may not possess the same gargantuan musculature as Stallone or Schwarzenegger in their prime, but he has a lean, functional power that is arguably more suited to the modern action hero. In the world of action cinema, all roads lead back to Bruce Lee. He was a revolutionary figure who combined mesmerizing physical prowess with a profound philosophical depth. His influence is immeasurable, and for an actor as physically dedicated as Jason Statham, Lee is a figure of immense importance. Statham's admiration for the martial arts legend is deeply felt, stemming from an early encounter with his most famous film. Speaking about Lee, Statham is effusive in his praise. If we want to talk about the movies that have made an impact in what I do in the action realm, Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. I've watched that countless times. Released in 1973, Enter the Dragon was a global sensation that posthumously cemented Lee's status as a cultural icon. For a young Statham, the film was a revelation. "It made a massive impact in my life," he recalled, explaining Lee's performance was unlike anything he had seen before. It was a combination of balletic grace, explosive power, and an almost preternatural intensity. Statham recognized him as a true original, an innovator who changed the very language of screen combat. "That is a standalone pioneer in action movies," he asserted, "and anyone that was inspired by Bruce Lee. I'm sure everyone that has ever done an action movie has just drooled over how full of talent Bruce Lee was, and how unique he was." This admiration is not merely for Lee's fighting ability, but for his entire approach to his craft. Bruce Lee was an artist who insisted on authenticity. Bruce Lee never had stunt doubles and fight doubles, Statham has pointed out, a fact that clearly resonates with his own professional ethos. He sees a stark contrast between Lee's methods and the techniques used in many modern productions. "I've been in action movies where there is a face replacement and I'm fighting with a double, and it's embarrassing," he admitted. For Statham, the audience can tell the difference. If you really are an aficionado of action movies, you know who's doing what and who ain't. Completing Jason Statham's personal roster of acting heroes are two men who perfected a particular brand of stoic, masculine cool: Clint Eastwood and Steve McQueen. They were actors who could convey more with a narrowed gaze or a silent shrug than many could with a page of dialogue. They built their legendary careers on a foundation of minimalist cool, and their influence on Statham's own screen persona is undeniable. Both Eastwood and McQueen were masters of the anti-hero, playing characters who were often cynical, world-weary, and reluctant to get involved, but who ultimately possessed an unshakable inner code of honor. Clint Eastwood's impact on Statham is particularly evident in his preference for taciturn characters. Eastwood is famous for his man-with-no-name persona from his spaghetti westerns, a character defined by his actions rather than his words. He understood the power of silence, the way it could draw an audience in and make them study his face, wondering what he was thinking. Statham has frequently employed this technique throughout his career. In films like The Mechanic or Parker, he often plays the quiet professional, allowing other characters to handle the exposition while he remains a cool, observant presence. It is a savvy performance choice that makes his characters seem more intelligent, more dangerous, and ultimately more compelling. When he does speak, his words are chosen carefully, often delivered in a low, menacing growl that lends them extra weight. This economy of language is a hallmark of the Eastwood style, and Statham has proven himself to be a masterful student. Steve McQueen, meanwhile, was the king of cool, an actor whose natural charisma and rebellious spirit made him a cinematic icon. He brought an effortless swagger to every role, whether he was playing a wisecracking cop in Bullitt or a determined prisoner of war in The Great Escape. Statham shares this quality of unflappable masculine cool. His characters are rarely flustered, facing down overwhelming odds with a calm resolve and a dry sense of humour. There is an authenticity to McQueen's performances that Statham clearly admires. Like many of his other heroes, McQueen was known for performing his own stunts, most famously the thrilling motorcycle jump in The Great Escape, though the final jump itself was performed by his friend and stuntman Bud Ekins. McQueen did much of the riding in the film. This commitment to realism, to being the character in both the dramatic and the physical sense, is a value that Statham holds dear. Together, Eastwood and McQueen represent a kind of quiet rebellion. Their characters did not need to shout to be heard. Their presence was enough. They embodied a self-reliant masculinity, a sense that they could handle any situation that was thrown at them without needing to make a fuss about it. This is the very essence of the Jason Statham brand. He is the man you call when things go wrong, the professional who gets the job done with a minimum of drama and a maximum of efficiency. In an era of loud, bombastic action films, Statham has carved out a unique space for himself by embracing the power of understatement, a lesson learned from watching the masters at work. His career is a testament to the enduring appeal of the strong, silent type, a cinematic archetype perfected by Clint Eastwood and Steve McQueen, and now carried forward with distinction by their most devoted and capable student.